Joining me now is Chief Greg Flynn of the West Bloomfield Fire Department as our emergency services continue to deal with COVID-19 as well as regular routine emergencies that happen throughout our local area each and every day. Chief, thank you for being with us.
Good morning, Tyler.
Appreciate having you on. So we're still in the thick of things here with COVID-19, yet another surge in our local area and throughout the state of Michigan with the more highly transmissible Omicron variant. How is our West Bloomfield Fire Department faring right now in terms of both the spread of COVID-19 in the department and also dealing with the regular emergencies while dealing with this more transmissible version of COVID-19?
Well, we continue to really respond to the workforce response, right? The operational side of things, Tyler, is very similar to what many other companies and businesses are dealing with. Sure, we have employees that become symptomatic and then may ultimately test positive for some variant or some version, if you will, of the COVID virus. So we're finding that many of them resolve in just a few days. They become asymptomatic. We go through an agreed upon process here in the township directed by our Human Resources Department and return to work. And I think our residents will see absolutely zero change in service, zero increased response times or anything like that because the organization has, for the last 2 years, learned very well how to maintain service while dealing with COVID.
And of course, our emergency services operators, our police department, certainly our firefighters and our paramedics, especially because they've been so closely working with others on the front lines of this pandemic in our hospital systems and our medical systems, and with individuals who may be afflicted with COVID-19 all throughout this pandemic. They've been taking those precautions very seriously, and they've really been leading the charge in showing the effectiveness of those precautions, such as masking and distancing and symptom checks. That being said, like you said, in many other industries, staffing can become an issue. When you have a version of the virus like is currently going around with the Omicron variant, that's so much more highly transmissible. Has your department had any issues as of late with staffing, or at the very least, if positively we haven't had any of those issues, are there plans in place in case the virus does start to spread around the department because it is more transmissible to continue operations in a normal sense as much as possible if this virus is to spread around?
Well, Tyler, and maybe you can tell me better because you've done many of these interviews and have heard from people from all across the in different industries locally, because I think that that's more the narrative than listening to these national opinions. But it's been 2 years. We've been talking about this. We've been dealing with it for 2 years. I think my approach as the chief administrator, if you will, of the fire department is here. It's here to stay. And if it's not this, it'll be something else. And I think I just really want to compliment the firefighter paramedics here, my administrative team, the leadership team, because every single day they come ready to go to work. And life does happen. So we have kids at home. Kids are potentially that vector that's going to bring that virus into the home, not intentionally. It's going to happen. It's everywhere. So the biggest thing, and I think our residents are doing this too, if you don't feel well and you're passing it off and saying, hey, I think this is just my allergies acting up, or I think I just have a little cold, we're really just encouraging those people to seek testing in a timely fashion. And if you're not able to get into a testing site right away, mask, wash your hands, keep the distance. Tyler, all things we've been saying on this show for 2 years now. And what is the theme that has been consistent through this whole pandemic? Keep a little space between you and others. Don't go to work or go out in public if you're sick. And wash your hands. So those have stayed with us, and I think that those are going to carry us well into the future with whatever communicable or whatever disease that's being spread within the community.
We're joined by West Bloomfield Fire Chief Greg Flynn on the MegaCast. And Chief, of course, your department has participated regularly with the Oakland County Health Division for vaccination sites for COVID-19 as well as for flu shots in recent months and all throughout this pandemic. As we have a more highly transmissible version of COVID-19 currently spreading around and chasing Delta for the spot as the dominant strain in our local area and in the state of Michigan. We've seen many more testing sites pop up all throughout the local area. Places like the city of Detroit have reactivated some of their testing sites. We have more testing sites here in Oakland County that have popped up in places where they've been previously. Any discussions as of now between your department and the Oakland County Health Division of further participation in either vaccination sites or more commonly, as we're seeing now, popping up testing sites?
The conversations are always going on with our community partners and definitely our partners at Oakland County Public Health. The difference, though, Tyler, of where we are today than where we were, a year, 18 months ago, is the network is there now. Remember when we were having discussions on, when's vaccine going to arrive? How many vaccination doses are we going to get? I don't think you hear too much about that. I think you can go into just about any CVS or Walgreens today or Kroger and get a vaccine, or within at least 24 or 48 hours with a scheduled appointment. So we're in a different place. And I think local government and county government and state government plays more of a role in that crisis mode when there's not a network set up. And now all of our private partners, again, the pharmacies, the doctor's offices, all of them, they have access to it. So that's where government now steps back and the network of other providers take over because it's readily available to everyone. Part of it was we wanted to make sure in West Bloomfield, the greater West Bloomfield area, there was access. And it's not just access for West Bloomfield residents, it's just a site for the greater West Bloomfield community to have access. And what we found with many of those sites, Tyler, is as time went on and those that were really eager to get vaccinated got vaccinated, that the demand for those has kind of waned a bit, and there's probably just not the need for that right now. And as far as testing goes, I think we could talk quite a bit about testing, but I probably should leave that to the experts, Dr. Faust and his team at Oakland County. But a lot of testing going on, and the reliability of some of the testing that's taking place, I think you've heard that debate kind of in the public forum.
We're joined by Chief Greg Flynn of the West Bloomfield Fire Department, joining us on the MegaCast. As he said, a lot of information already out there about testing. If you want to learn more about the various tests that are available for testing against COVID-19, whether that be antigen tests or PCR tests, what's the difference, which one's better for you to get, when you should get these tests, go to our website at civiccentertv.com/coronavirus. Go ahead and click on the Oakland County link. That will take you to the Oakland County Health Division's website, where they have all the resources you need to learn about all of that right there, and the ability, the link to email, to text, and to call the Oakland County Health Division's Nurse On Call hotline if you have any immediate questions about COVID-19 or want to schedule testing or vaccination through Oakland County. And so, Chief, other hazards still out there, still causing issues for people commonly beyond COVID-19, as we are now in the thick of winter here in Michigan. Particularly in the home, what are some common hazards that people need to be aware of as we're in the middle of winter to prevent home fires or other emergencies in their homes?
Well, we've said this before, fire is everyone's fight, not just the fire department. So everyone within the community plays a role in preventing fires within the home, within the community, within your workplace. One of the areas that this time of year we're most prone, and I think you're seeing this in some of the headlines with some of the one of the fires, I think it was out of the New York area, was a space heater. And we encourage that, again, two big tips on that, not the only exclusive tips, but two big ones. We don't plug them into extension cords. So however long that cord is that comes with the unit, that goes directly into the wall. And we want people to use space heaters that have that tip switch in it, so that if the space heater tips over, it automatically kills power to the unit and it won't continue to go. Tyler, people will think that, well, it's okay, I'm just going to run my little brown indoor residential 2-prong extension cord to run my space heater off, and I'm going to run it, and I don't want to look at the cord, I don't want to trip over it, so I'm going to put a piece of carpet over top of it or something like that. And what they don't realize is all that electricity is moving through that very thin extension cord. It heats up. And it's now this space heater's on for hours and hours, and everyone's looking at the space heater and they're not thinking about the extension cord that they've now insulated and put a carpet barrier on top of, maybe against carpet on the bottom. And then we start to get that potential for fire in that kind of an environment. So extension cords, just in general, they're not all created equal, Tyler, and you can just pick a couple up at the hardware store and you'll notice the different weights of them. And that all is designed specifically to handle the load of electricity that's moving to the device that it's powering.
We're joined by Chief Greg Flynn of the West Bloomfield Fire Department today on the MegaCast. And Chief, those are visible hazards that we can see, but there are invisible hazards as well, including carbon monoxide. This is a time of the year where it's recommended after the new year to, of course, check your smoke detectors, but also to make sure you have working and effective carbon monoxide alarms. Care to give us a little insight on that, please?
Sure. There's been quite a few advancements in this. They have combined units now. I know some of the units that I have in my house are even Bluetooth together, and I'm able to program for both smoke and CO detectors the location of the alarm. So it will actually connect all of the devices, and it's saying that there is smoke in the basement, in the kitchen, and you can select these different things from the menu on the alarm itself. So lots of advances there as far as some of the techie side of it that some of us might be into. We encourage people with that CO detector, Tyler, to have one with a digital readout. That actually tells you how many parts per million of CO are being detected. And that can be helpful for us because when you call that in and you tell the dispatcher that there's X number of parts per million coming up, or just read the number, we'll get that, we know what it means. That gives us a pretty good idea, because what people will sometimes do is they start opening up windows and they ventilate the house, which is okay because they want to get that CO out. It makes it a little bit more challenging for us to locate it, though, because our detectors go on concentrations. So we'll go to the main culprits where we think that it might be producing the CO. But for the most part, having that initial reading will be very helpful, because then we'll know where the CO detector was located and the reading from your device. The other little note on that, if you have one that does not have the digital display, Tyler, those over time may alarm, and we may get there and we may find no CO in your house. And it's because they have a tendency to collect CO over time, and then that cumulative buildup of CO within the device triggers the alarm. Those are devices that when you've reached that point, we just recommend you dispose of the device appropriately and then bring a new device into the home. They're a little more cost effective, but you don't get the longevity and some of the higher technology in those. Great device. We're glad you have one in your home, but you may see a little more turnover on those after just a few 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, and like you say, the devices, technology malfunctions, devices malfunction, they degrade over time in some cases, and hopefully you're in a situation where you have a false reading that says that you have increased levels of CO2 in your home. But in the case that that you don't have a false reading, but you have no reading at all from this outdated device, what are some signs or early symptoms people should be aware of the potential that they may be becoming poisoned with carbon monoxide in their home?
Sure. Folks are having a headache, quick to fatigue, feeling fatigued, I should say. But again, just that overall sleepiness, drowsiness, everyone in the home. And CO, while we're talking about it for this time of year, Tyler, one of the things that we've started to do on the fire department, and we got this from our friends in Bloomfield Township next door from an experience they had, we actually connect a CO device on our house bags. So when we go into the home, there's a device that's always monitoring for carbon monoxide connected to our medical bags that go in on the call. And what happened in this home, the medics went in, they started to treat this person who was feeling kind of sleepy and lethargic. All of a sudden, the alarm goes off, and the medics go, right, there's CO in this house. They didn't detect it either, but because we run with this constant monitoring that's on, they were able to determine in the summertime that there was a pool heater outside that wasn't venting away from the house. It was venting into the house, pumping carbon monoxide into the home and making everyone sick. And you say, well, it was summertime. Why was their house closed up? Well, because the air conditioning units were on and all the windows were closed. So it is a year-round thing, but having that device we found is a good thing. So every home we go into, we're in essence taking a reading on whether or not they have CO in their home.
Chief, we appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us. Anything else that we should be keeping aware of on the winter safety front or on the COVID-19 front going forward?
One more thing, Tyler, and if you could continue this throughout at least the next couple months, we've had a warm up here with the temperatures, which is going to compromise all of our beautiful lakes and ponds and bodies of water that we have around here and making them unsafe. So even if you were out on the ice, let's say, just theoretically speaking here a day or two ago, the warmer temperatures are now compromising that ice and it's no longer safe to be out on. So we encourage people to, if they see an animal on the ice or anything like that, not to go out on the ice. These animals are going to do okay. It's part of nature. But if there's some concern about a pet out on the ice, call us first. And we're happy to go out there and assist with making sure your pet makes it safely back to your home. But please, please, please don't make the situation worse by going out, breaking up the ice, and potentially becoming part of the rescue.
Chief, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your time.
You're very welcome. Glad to be with you.